Okay, it's lesson 9, part 2. So we've done a lot of our local work on setting up our release. We've created our Android app bundle. And we've created 5 of these 6 graphics that we need. So inside my Restorator folder, I've got the feature banner with a little help from norio.be. Our 2 phone screenshots, our 2 tablet screenshots, and now I need to create a 512 by 512 logo. Now there are a number of different logo making services out there. I'm going to use this one, this logomaker.com. So this is going to allow us to create a logo for non-commercial use. I'm going to ignore that. So I actually created one yesterday for my test, so I used the colors from my app. So I'm going to go and maybe I'll search for food. It's going to give me a whole bunch of icons. So I'm going to pick something I like that's sort of generic. So I'm going to pick one of these. Click on this icon. Oh. Okay, so I'm still working in this, so let's see, I want to save that. I want to go and create a new one. I may have to go to a new browser to do this. So I'll go here in Chrome. So I'll start again. I'll search for food. Find a logo I want to use. Just kind of like this one. So now I'm going to change the color, my fill color. So I'm going to go and grab again one of my hex values from my colors. And I'm going to apply that purple. And then I'm going to add some text, and I'll use maybe the teal color. So I'm going to add some text here. I'm going to move this oops. Oops. Oh, let's try that again because that didn't work too well. So I'm going to change the color on this, and then I'm going to move it down below. So I'll grab maybe my bright teal color. And I'll apply that. Oh. Would it help if I took the proper value? I'll move it down here. I still need to fix the color. Zero 03 DAC5. Ah. There, I'll put my color back. I'll be okay. Just a little struggles. 620EE. There. So there's my logo. Took a little while, a little bit of pain. So I'm going to save this now. I'm going to say, no thanks, I just want the low resolution file. I don't need all this stuff. So I'm going to download my file. As restorator logo.png. So it does say we should give credit. So in our description in the Play Store, I will give credit. So I'm also going to click this link on how to properly credit them. It says we can't use it for commercial use. I'm not. This is educational link. So I will add, created my logo at logomaker.com in my app description in the Play Store. Now, the size is probably not going to be what we need it to be. So if I look, I'll just edit this in good old Paint. It's 300 by 256. So I'm not going to be able to use this in the Play Store. So I'm going to edit it. I've got Gimp, which is like the free version of Photoshop. You can try to resize it in Paint, but it's probably going to distort things a bit. So here's my image. So I'm going to make it, let's say 512. I'll make it 512 wide, and then I'll have to increase the canvas size a little. So it's not quite square. The Play Store won't let me upload it. So now I'm going to set my canvas size to 512 by 512 and center it, and I'll fill it with white. So now it's at the right size. So you may have to play around with it. You can do it in Paint. If it distorts it a little bit, that's okay. You can play around. So now I have a 512 by 512 image. So I'm just going to overwrite this. If you don't have Gimp, that's okay. I recommend you download it. It's free, and it allows you to manipulate images. 512 by 512. It has to be. So if you are in Paint, you can resize it. So if you just edit here, if you want to resize, you can click resize here. And you can set the pixels to 512 by 512. I wanted to make it square first, and then I made the whole canvas size 512. So once you've got your photo at a square of 512 pixels, now we're ready to go to the Play Store and start our deployment. I've got our Android app bundle. We've turned the minification on, and we've now got the 6 image assets we need: the icon, the banner, the phone screenshots, the tablet screenshots. So now I'm going to go to the Play Store. I'm going to go to the main page in here, and I'm going to create an app. So I'll call this Restorator. For the language, I'll choose English Canada. It's an app, it's not a game. It's free. And I will just check off these declarations that I'm following the laws and the Google Developer Program policies. I'll move my camera here because all of the submit buttons are down here in the bottom right. So create an app, give it a name. The language, say it's a free app, and confirm that you accept the declarations. And then I'm going to click the Create App button down at the bottom right. So then it brings us here to the dashboard. And the first steps, we want some information about the app and setting up the store listing. So this is where we're going to provide a description and provide the image assets. So under View Tasks, here's our checklist. So we're going to go through this checklist before we set up a release. So I'm going to go through these items one at a time. Under App Access, I'm going to choose the first option. Functionality is available without special access. There's no sort of particular login, membership, or other authentication required. And I'll save that. Annoyingly, it doesn't take me to the next step. I've got to go back to the dashboard here. So it tells us we've completed one of the 7 initial setup first steps tasks. Now we've got to go into the ads and say, no, our app does not contain ads. And I'll click Save. We'll go back to the dashboard again. If you need to see any of these screens again, please let me know in the chat and I will jump back in, okay? The content rating is a little longer. So the ratings are displayed on Google Play to help users identify whether your app is suitable. So we're going to start the questionnaire. This should be relatively simple for us. Put in the email, an email address. So I'm just going to use the email address of my Google account. And it wants a category. I'm going to choose our category as reference, news, or educational. It doesn't really belong under any of these other categories as far as I'm concerned. So just put in any email address that you own and choose the category. You don't have to choose reference, news, or educational, but I think that's the most accurate. And click next. We can say no to all of these. There's no violence. There's no sexual content. There's no offensive language. We're not depicting illegal drugs or controlled substances. Does the app natively allow users to interact or exchange content with other users through voice, text, image sharing? No. Does it share the location with other users? No. And does it allow? So we're basically just going to say no to everything here. And I'll click save. And then I'll click next. So this now gives us a content rating. So in North America, our app is rated E for everyone. And different jurisdictions have their own ratings. So I can just click submit here. Excuse me. So now our content rating is completed. Once this is all done, I can go back to my app content. We don't need a privacy policy, but we do need this section. So we've completed ads, app access, and content. We need to complete the target audience and content. So I'll click start. To keep it simple, so it says we've got to create a privacy policy if we're targeting kids under 13. I'm just going to say 18 and over. I think we're all adults. The app is not designed for children, so I'll just pick 18 and over under target audience. And I'll click next. Could our store listing unintentionally appeal to children? I'll just say no. And click next. So it's for adults, doesn't appeal to children. We haven't bothered enrolling it in the Design for Families program. I'll just click save. And then I can return to the main app content section. We also have to complete this item around news apps. Google wants to know if it is a news app. So I'll click start. And under is it a news app, I just say no. And then I'll go back to my app content. So the privacy policy is not required because we've said it's not for children. So now I should be able to go back to my dashboard checklist. Again, like I said, it's a bit odd. It gives us checklists, but doesn't really prompt us where to go next. It just sort of leaves us here. The old version of the console was actually better. So it says 5 of our 7 steps. So we've now described all the content of the app. We now need to choose a category and provide contact details, as well as set up our store listing. So we're going to complete these 2 tasks. I'm going to click on select an app category and provide contact details. So it defaults to app. Under category, again, I'm going to pick education. You can add tags if you like. Now, this email address actually shows up on the Google Play Store. So I'm going to add an address that I own. I'm going to uncheck the advertise my app outside of Google Play. Don't really need that. You can put in a phone number and a website if you want. I'm only putting in an email address here. And click Save. And then again, I can go back to the dashboard. Like I said, this doesn't lead, the process is sort of broken. It should give me a next button to go to the next task, and it should show me. Shouldn't have to go back to the dashboard every time. So we've completed 6 of the 7 setup steps. Now we have to set up the store listing. So the app name is Restorator. Short description, COMP3025 in-class app, fall 2020 at so I'll say built using Kotlin and Firestore with Android Studio. This is where I'll give credit to the logo maker. So I'm going to add, created my logo at logomaker.com. This app is for educational purposes only. You can say whatever you want here. You have 4,000 characters. So put in both a short description as well as a long description. So in the Play Store, those descriptions will show up. So there was the short description. And then we'll scroll down, and now we've got to start providing the images that we've created. So you'll notice the app icon, it's required. It's 512 by 512. So I can just click, or you can drag and drop. So I'll upload my logo first. The next section is that feature banner. So under feature graphic, it's got to be 1024 by 500. So I'm going to upload that one. And then it wants 2 to 8 phone screenshots, 2 to 8 tablet screens. Okay, until you have the tablet screens, you won't be able to complete this because those fields are required. So if you don't have it, you do need to install through the AVD manager. You need to install a tablet emulator so you can get those screenshots. You can upload other images, but Google will reject. So I'm going to add both my first phone and second phone screenshots. Now it says both the 7 and 10 are required for tablet. You don't need to do both. So I'm going to upload my 2 tablet screenshots. So now all 6 of the images we created are here. I don't have a YouTube video. I guess I could, if I'm recording this video, I could put in the URL here. And lastly, I can save my changes. So this should complete that 7-step checklist. So now I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And that initial setup, again, it's sort of weird. It's actually just gone. So we don't even see that checklist anymore. Whereas these items used to appear in the left and they would turn green as we did them. I don't know why Google got rid of that. So now we can go to create a release, right? We still haven't actually uploaded our Android app bundle, and we need to decide on a release. So we can do internal testing, we can do closed testing, we can do open testing where anybody on Google Play can test. There's pre-registration, which people could register for our app before it's released. And then lastly, there's publish the app. So we've got a couple choices. I'll maybe ask you guys what you want to do. We could release, say, to open testing. I mean, we could do any of these. Any preference on how you want to release the app? Keep in mind, it isn't going to be available for a while because Google has to review it. And my app that I created yesterday is still not available. So, I mean, the normal process would be to release to testing first, test the app, and then release to production later. Any preferences of what kind of release you want to make here? Do you want to go straight to production, or do you want to do a testing release first? Okay, so Delano, your vote for a testing release. So any other opinions? Anybody else? Do you want to do a test release or do you want to do a production release? We've got one vote for a test release. Okay, Tim, you have no preference. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Because they are a little bit different. Okay, if there's a vote for testing, a vote for production. So I've got one of each. So you can choose. I think I will do an open testing release, and then maybe next week I'll update it and make a new release to production. But if you want to just do a production release, that's fine, you can. So I think I'm going to go to, I'll do an open testing. So I want to let anyone sign up to test the app on Google Play. So I'm just going to go here. So first I'm going to set up an open test track by selecting the countries and regions. So we get this screen, it says add the countries and regions. So I'll just choose Canada. So any Google user in Canada, if they want to test my app, they can. So it'll be available to eligible testers. So it's available here. So I can specify a limited number if I want. I'll put in my email address so people can give me feedback. And maybe I'll limit the number to, I don't know, let's say 10 is enough. Okay, 1,000 is enough. If 1,000, I guess, is the minimum. So I'm going to save the changes. Again, if you want to go straight to production, feel free. It now says there's a beta track summary that's inactive. So I'm going to need to start a beta track, and then I can create my release. So I'm going to click Start Track. And now I'm going to click Create New Release, and I can do it either up here or down here, doesn't matter. So finally, we're taking the very first thing we did, which is that Android app bundle. So it tells us that Google will create and protect the signing key and use it to sign each release, which will make sure any updates are from me. App signing is required. So it says click complete the steps above. So I'll click continue. I've opted into app signing. And now finally I can upload my bundle. Actually, I'll just drag and drop it. Be easier. So here's my release that we generated earlier, the start of our lesson. So I'm going to upload, drag and drop my AAB file here. Should be pretty quick because it's only a few megs. So we're not going to be able to see the app in the store. As I said, it's at least 24 hours now. I'll keep checking the test I did yesterday. And you'll have to keep checking your release. So the release name is going to be pulled automatically from our build.gradle. And then we can create release notes once this is done. Take a little longer than I thought, actually. Okay, so here's my release. So it recognizes the version code and version name. So, and that's what it's putting in directly. So this value, I won't be able to duplicate. If I make a change and upload a new release, I'm going to have to increase my release code. So I'll just put this in as first release to open testing. And I'm going to save. So we've now got our bundle. It reads from build.gradle, the API and target, as well as how many screen layouts. So again, this information shows up in the store about what Android version is required. Now I can review the release before rolling it out. So I'll click on Review Release. So here it is, version 1.0. Got my release notes. So now I'm ready to start rollout to open testing. Be available to testing. I can roll it out. So now it's going to show being reviewed. And I'll just have to keep checking this over the weekend because Google now has to review. So it's my beta track is active and it's under review. So the process for doing a production release really isn't very different. we're just dispensing with the need to specify testers, basically. Everything else is pretty much the same. The only difference is once it's reviewed and approved, the app is live. Anybody can find it in the Play Store and install it. Whereas right now I've limited it to 1,000 people, and it'll be flagged as being in test mode. So I'll check this, and hopefully Google will approve it sometime over the weekend. And then maybe next week what I'll do is I'll create a production release where I'll have to update the version code in Android Studio, build a new Android bundle, and create a second release, which will be for production. So this is really all we can do today. So if I go back to my dashboard, tells us it's going to be a while. And it's going to tell me I've got an open testing release that's under review. So if I try to view it on Google Play, so production is inactive. I have an open testing track. If I try to view it on Google Play, it's probably going to tell me it's not available yet. So we'll just have to wait. Right, so not found yet until that review by Google is done. It won't be here. So then we get all kinds of metrics around our app. We can see our ratings, all kinds of other metrics once the app gets launched. Our store listing, where are our users coming from, crashes, all that stuff is here. So that's the release. There's one final step that I did touch on in the slide deck, which is securing Firebase. So I did send out the link earlier, but what I want to do is go into Firebase and I want to secure my database. So right now I've got this rule here, this default rule we set up that basically made our database public for 30 days. That time is expired. So I'm going to change this rule. Instead of saying if it was before November 15th, I want to set it up so only authenticated users can read and write to Firestore. So I'm going to use request.auth.id, and I'm going to set it so it's not null. So a user must be authenticated in order to read or write to the database for any document, wildcard. So I'm going to publish that rule. I'm also going to put it in the chat for you. So you should be modifying your Firestore database this way as well. So users in your app can't read or write to and from the database if they're not logged in. So that's going to be necessary to make your database secure. We left it open just to start. But we should be preventing it. Now, there are other rules that some of you need for your assignment. For example, some of you already asked about, like, how do I make sure a user can only access their own data? So that's in the link I sent. Where you can control. So in this security link around security, you can control that. Yep, it is. It's the auth.uid, Edwin. That's right. So there's some description and some examples here where you can set up based on the user ID. So you can go through the documentation here. So this is what we've done now. If it's not null, And right here, here's the link to making sure that the data they're requesting or writing to belongs to them. So that's right here in this. I'll put it in the chat as well. So you can find this stuff in the Firebase docs, making sure users can only read and write their own data. So a lot of you will want this in your assignment. Okay, we haven't implemented it in the Restorator, but the link is here. So all the steps, we've jumped through all the hoops we need for deployment, at least for me to deploy my open testing track. Some of you may have tried deploying to production. So now we're just kind of in a holding pattern. We'll wait for Google. I'll see how long it takes for them to review my app. As I said, the app I submitted yesterday afternoon around 3:45, it's still under review. So I don't really know how long they're going to take. This is by far the longest it's ever taken for any app that I've published before. So we'll just wait and see on that. So that's all we wanted to cover today. That should be everything you need in order to publish your app and secure your database for your assignment. There is a quiz on deployment that's due next Thursday. So that quiz will be available at 2 p.m. today until next Thursday at 5. And I'm going to look at our schedule for next week. We may get into the camera. We may do a couple of other things. We may want to deal with the camera first and then our location services after. And then we'll have our app demos looking in 3 weeks. Okay. Are there any questions for anybody before we wrap up for today? I know there are a lot of steps involved here. Fortunately, nothing's actually terribly complicated. The only thing that's complicated is the Play console does kind of a lousy job of leading us through the process start to finish. So we have to jump around a bit. This slide deck is on Blackboard. So I've tried to list here the steps that you'll need. Delano, I believe so. It also lets you test them. So any rule you write, you can actually try it. There's this rules playground. And it's got the dev tools. So you can experiment with that to see if your rule makes sense. So yes, this should fail if it doesn't. Or if there's an error. Good question. So I'm going to take a quick break, stretch my legs, and I will come back this afternoon and I'm going to be working on grading your assignments. I'll try and get everyone their grades as fast as I can. Okay, if there are no other questions, then I'm going to sign off. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time today. I hope you all have a great weekend and a terrific week. I'll see you guys next Friday.